I'd like to thank you for participating in our 59th annual Rural Life Conference. We feel that this is a special conference for us this year because we are celebrating our 125th anniversary of the Second Morrell Act. As most of you know, that this act is what really initiated the research and extension programs for the 1890 universities. There were originally 18 of those universities. We now have 19. But thank you for participating in this event, and I hope you get enough information to think it worthy of your time. We're going to proceed with the program as printed. We're going to have greetings by Dr. Jacqueline McCrae, our Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, meditation by Dr. Pamela Moore, Associate Director of Global Engagement, and a music rendition by one of our students from the music department, and then we will have the introduction of the speaker as printed in the program, and then the presentation from our speaker. With that, I turn you over to Dr. Jacqueline McCrae.
Good morning. Good morning. It's my pleasure to greet you on the occasion of this 59th Annual Rural Life Conference. Our crowd is a little down this year, but I want to recall that sometimes during the history of the earlier conferences, I believe at the first conference there were 9 people in attendance. So we're still above the mark in terms of attendance. This conference has grown tremendously in the 59 years that it has been in existence, and it has always served a meaningful purpose to families, communities, USDA agencies, and other people. The conference brings together many of the people who are involved and interested in improving rural America, hence this title, the Rural Life Conference. Since the inception of the conference, the university has had 6 presidents and chancellors. They've also had 6 deans of agriculture. And all of those people, the early leaders and the supporters of this conference, have had a passion for improving the lives and livelihood of Arkansas citizens. And this conference is no different. Each year there's been a special appreciation for people who travel from across the state to come and be with us and to share the knowledge that is gained at this conference. You'll be hearing about innovative programs in all realms of the human sciences and agricultural industries, and you'll be able to listen to people who are doing cutting-edge research in those areas and people who are engaged in outreach activities to help you improve your farming and your community operations. Today, I ask you to avail yourselves of the 21 educational exhibits, 15 research poster sessions, and 16 concurrent sessions that will cover a wide range of topics that have the potential to impact the social, economic, and health outcomes of all in attendance and the communities that you represent. Please know that the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff is pleased to have you share in this conference today and invite you to become engaged in the multiplicity of programs and information available to support your farms, families, and communities. Thanks for coming.
I'd like to share with you a poem I'm struggling with a cold today, by Alfred Grant Walton. And I trust that this poem will help to frame our thoughts and our perspectives and how we approach the sessions and speakers that we will have the opportunity to benefit from today. The poem is entitled, "The World We Make." We make the world in which we live by what we gather and what we give, by our daily needs and the things we say, by what we keep or what we cast away. We make our world by the beauty we see in a skylark song or a lilac tree, in a butterfly's wing, in the pole moon's rise, and the wonder that lingers in midnight skies. We make our world by the life we lead, by the friends we have, by the books we read, by the pity we show in the hour of fear, by the loads we lift and the love we share. We make our world by the goals we pursue, by the heights we see and the higher view, by hopes and dreams that reach the sun and a will to fight till the heights are won. What is the place in which we dwell? A hut or a palace, a heaven or hell? We gather and scatter, we take and we give, we make the world, and there we live. The theme of the 59th Annual Rural Life Conference is Innovations and Opportunities, Sustaining Farmers, Families, and Communities. We're also celebrating 125 years of service, of providing access and enhancing opportunities. Both speak to the human urge to make the world a better place in which to live, with particular emphasis on access, opportunity, and a better quality of life for farmers, rural families, and rural communities. As we attend the various sessions and workshops, I trust that we will consider, reflect, and meditate upon our individual commitments to make the world a better place. And may we be more amply empowered to do so through the knowledge, information, resources, and insights that shall be gained from the various speakers, presenters, and workshops. Thank you.
Now we're going to have a presentation by Hosea Connie, a junior in our music department. You can give him a hand before we start. We have the privilege to have Mr. Mike Sullivan, the state conservationist for the state of Arkansas, USDA, NRCS, to introduce our speaker today. It's a privilege to have him here because he is also a great friend of UAPB and has worked well with us in the past. With that, Mike Sullivan.
Good morning. It's my privilege this morning to introduce our morning speaker, James Tillman. He is the Natural Resources Conservation Service Regional Conservationist for the Southeast region. This means he oversees NRCS activities for 11 states in the southeast part of the country, the Caribbean area, and including Arkansas. He has previously served as state conservationist in Georgia for 9 years. Prior to that, he was deputy state conservationist in California. He's also served as an assistant state conservationist in Texas and in Illinois. In his 32-year career, he's held positions including soil conservationist, district conservationist, resource conservationist, and USDA 1890 liaison officer. He's worked in 7 states: Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Illinois, Texas, California, and Georgia, and now Washington, D.C. Since becoming our RC last year, he's been very active in helping to advocate for Arkansas in particular, for us to have the resources we need that are critical for us to address natural resource concerns here in the state, as well as we continue to make a cultural transformation through our Strike Force initiative, providing additional assistance to historically underserved producers. But the best thing about James is he's from Arkansas. He grew up in Helena. He's got a Bachelor of Sciences degree in Ag Economics from right here at UAPB. He and his wife, Patricia, have 3 grown children, and he's also got other members of the Tillman crew here with him, so welcome to you as well. Please help me welcome Mr. James Tillman.
Let me first say good afternoon, good morning to each of you. It's such an honoring opportunity to be here. I say to you, Dean Garner and Dr. McCray, I will commend you on such an excellent conference, an opportunity to bring farmers and ranchers together and find ways we work together and move forward. Dr. English, it is so important that we as 1890 institution and Mike, as we as leadership, work with farmers and ranchers and help push conservation forward. You know, it's such a warm opportunity. I think, as Mike mentioned, Mike, I appreciate you, Mike, in terms of, I think I got a few family members here. I won't take but a minute if you would, but I think that nice song that the young man played this morning really exemplifies what my family means to me. So if you would, I'm asking if you would, if they would stand. I got my mom, dad, I can't go through everybody. You know how we are in rural America. I got in-laws, my wife, you know, my wife kind of sneaked them in on me. But Dean, I want to mention this morning how humble I am to be here at this particular conference. And Dr. Ann Bartuska, in terms of you, I'm looking forward to you as our luncheon speaker. Those exciting words in terms of helping us in 1890 push forward. But how noteworthy it is for me to be here on this particular day, Dr. McCray, at this very moment, right here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, to mention just a few of the highlights in terms of things you're doing here at the university and out in rural America. You know, I always tell my friends, there's no place like home, and there's no place like home. And Mike, I try my best to get home as often as I can. And I know it's just like you, when you're on your way home, there's no place like home. And when you're on your way home and you're getting there, you see these familiar surroundings. The closer you get, Dr. Ann, the closer you get to home where mom and dad lives, you look and you begin to see familiar streets and familiar names and familiar places, and your heart begins to get beating and a little bit more rapidly. And then I just can't wait. And I tell you like I tell my mom and dad, when I finally get over that hill and get up in the house, I tell them it is good to be home. And it is good to be right here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. It's kind of like Jason Weller talks about. He says, it's always the right time to do the right thing. And sometimes when your theme is so appropriate, being gone. Because, as Jason says, doing innovative things are sometimes just doing different things and doing the right thing differently. I want to commend you and your staff for putting together this conference, bringing farmers in rural America together in one place. I was thinking back in 1972, when rural America made up approximately 72% of the population. And Dr. Glover, in 2010, rural America makes up now approximately 16% of rural America. And about 2% of America are farmers. About 2% of the population feeds 98% of the rest of us. You know, I think with the theme of your conference, in terms of innovation, sustaining farmers, ranchers, and communities, I think it's very clear that you're focusing on the right kinds of things. Like my daddy often tells me that when we was growing up, and you're doing the right kinds of things, he would say, son, you hit the nail on the head. And all he's saying is that, Dr. Ann, is that you're focusing on the right kinds of things, you're working with the right kinds of people, and you're doing things good. I want you to know, Dean Garner, that right here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, that you're focusing on the right kinds of things, and you are indeed, like my dad say, hit the nail on the head. Looking nationally in terms of agriculture, where we are in rural America. We've been working with 1890 institutions and working with the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and we've secured, over this last year, approximately 45,000 contracts with farmers and ranchers. What do these contracts mean? They're more than just contracts. They're agreements, Mike. They're agreements with families. They're agreements with mom and dad, with farmers who made a commitment to mom and dad that they were going to hold them to the farm, that they were going to make a go of it. These contracts with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, working with 1890 institutions, these folks are able to stay on the farm. They're able to make a living. They're able to get fresh fruits and vegetables for their families. That's what we're doing here. That's what farmers and ranchers are doing here. I think the numbers say that one farmer feeds approximately 147 people. If that be the case, if we look around the room, approximately 2 farmers feeds all of us here. We're able to lay down at night, put our kids to bed, knowing that we're going to get fresh fruits and vegetables because approximately 2 to 3 farmers get up every morning, work from sun up to sundown, trying to make a living. I thought about here. I thought about me coming home. Here's the university. I thought about Pine Bluff. I thought about the instructors here. Calvin, I thought about the real thing in terms of what do 1890s mean to rural America. I thought about a young man who came here in 1948 from Phillips County, a little small town of Lex, Arkansas, born to a Baptist minister. Mom name was Emily, who decided one morning that he was going to do something different, that he was going to be a help not only to his community, but to the world. He made his way to the doorsteps. Mr. Dean, he made his doorsteps to this university. Had difficulty getting in. But I want to explain to you what you mean to rural America. When he made it to the doorsteps and he submitted his application to get in, he had a little difficulty, Calvin. He had a little difficulty getting in, but the president of the university at that particular time was so impressed by this young man's resume, so impressed by his write-up that he admitted him anyway. And this young man came in 1948 and graduated in 1952 and went on and was the first, I know I haven't shared his name with you, but he graduated in 1952 from this university. And he was the first kidney surgeon to do a successful kidney transplant between two human beings who were not identical twins. Let me tell you the reason why you're here and the reason why we're here today. We're here because somebody had to see something in somebody else to help push forward. What you are doing in rural America is making a difference. What you're doing in rural America as a young man who lives in the state of Illinois, who decided one day that he wanted to come here. He decided that he wanted to do something better. And today he sits on the U.S. House of Representatives floor, pushing forward bills into Congress. His name is Honorable U.S. Representative Danny Davis. He came through here. Another young man, I could go on and tell you about how important 1890 institutions are to rural America. But you see it, and you see it every day. NRCS has the opportunity. Mike, and I want to commend you for your leadership. On our ride down here, we talked about working with farmers and ranchers. And Mike and Kelley talked about how can we position ourselves to work with the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff to be sure that the programs we have available, they are available for rural America. I think if we look at the Mississippi River Basin Initiative, I think working with the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, you have a couple projects involved in that, but totally, we've invested somewhere in the neighborhood of $140 million into that initiative. There are new opportunities in the Farm Bill for you and others like you. I think we've heard from the university in making things simple. I think past history tells us that the things we do here, working with rural America, is so important. Because Vanessa, there's a young man who lives not far from here, down in the city of Star City, who's hoping that someday that this institution, the folks who are here will be here for him. There's somebody in a little small town not too far from here, as you come up Highway 79, or counting on things you do today, Dr. McCray, that the opportunity will be available for them, that they would have an opportunity to hold on to the farm. I think we'll have a workshop or two. Well, I think a gentleman by the name of Andre Peter, who also came through this university, is operating a successful farm operation. So what we're doing here is not necessarily for us, but it's 1890s, accepting a challenge, Dr. Glover, and doing those kinds of things that are successful and making a difference along the countryside. What additional challenges are there out there? What are some new programs that we're looking for? Mike, as we talked about coming up, I know the university would have an opportunity to take advantage of the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. It's a new program up under the Farm Bill that we roll out this fiscal year. In that program, we're working with entities, CBOs, 1890s, private investors, Dr. Ann, putting more money into conservation, leveraging more money. I think at the end of the particular sign-up, Kelley, I think we obligated approximately 115 contracts working with farmers and ranchers. What does that mean for each of you? That means that workshops like this, we'll still have an opportunity to have them. That means universities, 1890s, 1890 extension. Just like the aquaculture program you have here. I think $167 million industry right here. $1.2 billion industry in the Delta. I encourage you to continue to work with farmers, continue to work with CBOs, pushing things forward. You know, this month represents, I think, Dr. Ampeteska, the 1 year anniversary of the Farm Bill. For 1 year, we've been pushing it forward. And this university right here in Arkansas, Kenneth Lee, has been a key part of that particular process. As a result of that, and I was teasing Mike earlier, right here in your state, Mike worked with 1890s, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and other CBOs and farmers and ranchers. His staff put on obligated $137 million out in the countryside. That is only second in the nation. Dr. Dwayne Goldman, because of what you do with Monsanto and working with 1890 and the leadership of Mike here, Mike led the nation in terms of the Southeast region in conservation dollars rolled out to farmers and ranchers. Mike, I commend you for your leadership and what you do. We've had our leadership travel around this great country of ours announcing our regional partnership program. And Chief Weller, NRCS, and Secretary Vilsack, we hope to make an additional announcement sometime early to late spring, and put those dollars out there where you can apply for those particular dollars. We rolled out approximately $372 million. We're able to leverage that $372 million and turn it into approximately $800 million. And the University of Arkansas was a big part of that particular process. Getting conservation on the ground, putting it where it works. You've had an opportunity, I think you have a UAPB farm. I think called the Pearlie S. Reed and Robert L. Cole Small Outreach Farm and Wetland Management Center. On that particular farm, you've had the opportunity to bring in youth, bring in farmers and ranchers and train them, work with them. I think they've gone on to sign up in a number of our Farm Bill programs. I think there's a farmer, I'm not sure he's here today, but his name is Charles Brown, over in Little River County. He was the first producer in terms of who put on a high tone, which is kind of a new practice that we have in USDA. And speaking with Charles talked about that high tone, Dr. Ann Batuska. The folks who came out and worked with him, they worked with him in a way that he was able to understand how to get that to work for him, and now he's able to extend his growing season. He's able to create a farmer's market. He's able to make a little bit more money to bring home to his family. You see, families and conservation go hand in hand. Charles fully understands that there's farmers and ranchers out there just trying to do a little bit more because they recognize that that son or that daughter that they have, that they're trying to put a little bit away to send them to college. They know that they're trying to, and maybe to have that wedding that their daughter always talked about. So I want you to know, Mike, and Mike, you recognize that the work we do with 1890 and NRCS is not just about contracts. Calvin, you know it's about families and it's about conservation. I want to tell you a little story about a man most of you probably know. But there was a young man who lived in a little small town of Heth, Arkansas. And as soon as I say Heth, Arkansas, most of you probably know. But he's a young man from meager means, but he decided one day that he wanted to make things better for him and his family. And I think Heth is somewhere off, I think I-40, Interstate I-40 in eastern Arkansas, and he traveled here to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Let me tell you how important rural America is. Let me tell you how important what you're doing here and the commitment that you're making here is important to rural America. That young man traveled here and did not have much in his bag, nor did he have much in his hand. But he came here to the university and you admitted him. And he matriculated through the educational process. And he graduated and he started his career with USDA NRCS up at Walnut Ridge, Arkansas. And this particular gentleman went on and worked through the agency and ultimately became chief of the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And you know him by the name of Pearlie S. Reed, and he was, I think in 2009, he was appointed by President Obama to be Assistant Secretary of Administration within USDA. let me tell you how important you are to rural America. For what you do makes a difference. I tease some of my friends all the time, and I've got a couple of friends here. I think Carl Ray and Ivan Whitfield, but I tease my friends all the time that if you listen quietly, you can hear the voices of the faculty staff here when I was here. And George, I know you really can't hear them, but what I do believe is, I believe that if you listen quietly, that you can remember their encouragement, how they pushed us and worked with us. And our parents brought us right here that we could be better when we left. And I come back to you almost 31 years later to let you know, Dean Garner, that the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and the faculty here kept their promise. They kept their promise to hundreds of thousands of moms and dads and children who came here, trusting that things would be better. And I want to leave you with this. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, we was over in Charleston, South Carolina, and I was sitting there and we were with Secretary Vilsack, and he was having a session with some of the farmers there, and it went on for about a couple of hours, and Secretary Vilsack, Dr. Ann, toward the end, he asked one last question. He asked a question, he said, and the panel consists of farmers, private investors, and also consists of some community-based organizations. He asked a question, Kenneth Lee, he said, if USDA could do one thing that could help your farm, your family, your community, what would be the biggest thing they could do to have the biggest impact? And Tom, as he went through the audience and he went through that panel, he got to the last gentleman. And Dr. Goldman, the gentleman didn't say much. He said between 6 and 8 words, he said, if USDA could meet people where they are. And Dr. Goldman, I've been working with those words since 4 or 5 years ago, and I believe what he was saying, Secretary Vilsack, I've got a neighbor who lives not far from me, who's been trying to get involved in agriculture, who's got 3 or 4 acres and trying to feed their family. But he's not quite sure on how to do all that. If your staff could meet him where he is and share with him so he would understand. He was also saying that I understand that there's some folks who live quite a ways down the road who has a large farm and they need information on the internet. They need the new technology. And if you could provide that information to them. But then, Dr. English, I began to think to myself all the time that I know a place who've been meeting people where they are for over 125 years. They've been meeting people where they are, Corey, helping people to be better. And let me tell you how you've helped people, because there was a young man who came here who mom and dad dropped him on the doorstep of this university. Back in the fall of 1980, a young man who desired to do better. And his parents felt like that they wanted an opportunity for all their kids to do better. And they brought me right here. And the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and the staff, Dr. McCray, and I can remember it vividly. I was teasing one of my professors, said, you got another test today. And he said, if you kept notes in your study, it won't be a problem. And he was right. But they brought me right here. And not that I'm any different than anybody else, but what I'm trying to tell you is, keep up the good work. Keep the work that you're doing, because there's somebody who lives not far from here, but there's also somebody who haven't been born yet. And they're counting on each of you to push forward. They're counting and hoping that you can keep things together, that you can share with them whenever they arrive on the scene, that it'll be here to help them move forward. Let me explain to you how important 1890s are to rural Americans and farmers. It is the essence of who they are. And it's the essence of who we are. And I want you to know from here today, Mike, as I told you when I landed on yesterday, there's indeed no place like home. But I go back to where I come from, and I would hope that when you go home tonight, and when you look in the mirror before you lay on your pillow, just remember that you're rural America, and it's indeed rural America who keeps America strong. If you don't believe how important you are, let the 2% of the farmers decide not to grow crops. Let the 1890s decide not to get involved. Let those professors decide not to admit folks into the university. Folks, I'm going to sit down, but let me explain to you, if you would, Dean, keep up the good work. Keep pushing forward. Mike, stay strong, and all of you keep pushing forward, because there's each of us that must take care of all of us, because it's rural America that keeps all of us strong and push all of us forward. Thank you very much.
It's tradition that we give our speaker the S.J. Kelley medallion. This year we'll let Mr. Mike Sullivan, our state conservationist, present the medal to our speaker. And Mr. Roth is always given the responsibility to give some other token to our speaker. And I don't know what we have this year, so, but we're going to present this because I didn't see it until now. But I know you put it on. Oh, okay. It's a pin set, cross pin set. So we present this as a small token of our appreciation for the inspired speaker.
Thank you. I got involved, was caught up in a traffic accident this morning and was late, didn't get a chance to do my housekeeping. Mr. Theodore Eldridge, are you here? Yeah. All right, Mr. Eldridge, come here. So Mr. Eldridge is supposed to be seated here on the stage with us. Come here, Mr. Eldridge, and get the seat on the end by Dr. McCray. Since you was cheated out half your time, we want you to sit at the head table during the luncheon today. Sit on that. Sit down there. Each year, the Rural Life Conference Dedication Committee submits nominations to the Rural Life Conference Task Force for their consideration of select honorees to be presented for dedication at the Rural Life Conference. An honoree is chosen because of his contributions to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, School of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Human Sciences, and to rural community development for improving the quality of life for the people in the community and for positive contributions to the Rural Life Conference. This year's Rural Life Conference Task Force is pleased to recognize two outstanding individuals, and both have met and superseded the task force standards in order to be recognized today. Our first recipient was raised on a 600-acre farm, which included cotton, livestock, and vegetables near Marville, Arkansas. He graduated from A&M College, now the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, with a degree in agriculture education. And after teaching vocational agriculture for 1 year in Moro, Arkansas, he spent a tour of duty in Vietnam and received the Bronze Star for his service. He spent the next 32 years in a number of positions with the Farmers Home Administration, which is located in USDA. After his retirement from the USDA, he worked as a collaborator with the UAPB Small Farmers Program, where he collaborated outreach agricultural activities between UAPB School of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Human Sciences, and the East Arkansas Enterprise Community. He coordinated the UAPB Agricultural Demonstration Outreach Center at Marietta. He currently serves as the State Committee Chair of the Farm Service Agency. Our recipient has received several awards, and just to name one special award he received in 2010, which was the John Gammon Award, and this award was awarded to him for his dedicated service to the agriculture industry in Arkansas. Our recipient and his beautiful wife presently operates a 3-acre truck crop farm that includes harvesting crops of watermelons, potatoes, and several varieties of vegetables. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2015 Rural Life Conference Task Force proudly presents the 59th Annual Rural Life Conference Dedication Award to none other than Mr. Theodore Eldridge. Mr. Eldridge, would you please come forward? And this plaque read as 59th Annual Rural Life Conference dedicated to Theodore Eldridge for outstanding service and leadership. University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, School of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Human Sciences, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Dr. Lawrence B. Alexander, Chancellor, Dr. James B. Garner, Jr., Dean, Director. Our second recipient is Dr. Pearlie S. Reed, and Dr. Reed could not be with us today because he is attending his brother-in-law's funeral. And we extend our sincere condolences to Dr. Reed and his family. And all of the information on the bio, you'll see it in our program, and you might want to just read that, but I'm just going to give some highlights that as I gave of Mr. Eldridge. I'll give a few highlights of Dr. Reed. Dr. Reed was reared on a farm in Heth, Arkansas, and he's a graduate of A&M College, now the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, with an undergraduate degree in agronomy. He received a graduate degree in finance and completed his special studies at several other institutions, including the USDA Graduate School and the Johns Hopkins University Center for Alternative Disputes and Resolutions. Dr. Reed began his career as a student trainee with the Soil Conservation Service in 1968. He worked in 4 states and headquarters and served as an NRCS state conservationist for the states of both California and Maryland. He served as Associate Chief of the NRCS and then was appointed NRCS Chief in 1998 in Washington and served in that position until 2002. Dr. Reed was appointed as head of the USDA Civil Rights Team by former USDA Secretary Dan Glickman. In 2009, Dr. Reed was nominated by President Barack Obama and confirmed by the U.S. Senate for the position of Assistant Secretary of Agriculture for the USDA in Washington, D.C., where he served until 2012. Dr. Reed has received numerous awards and honors over the course of his career, and I will name a few of those honors and awards, which include the Distinguished Presidential Rank Award, the George Washington Carver Public Service Hall of Fame Award, and the USDA Silver Plow Award. Dr. Reed was instrumental in helping the UAPB School of Fisheries and Agriculture and Fisheries and Human Sciences acquire the 871-acre farm, which is named the Pearlie S. Reed and Robert L. Cole Small Farm Outreach Wetland Water Management Center. And this farm is located in Lone Oak, Arkansas. Dr. Reed currently serves as a private consultant specializing in agriculture, conservation, economic development, and management. Dr. Reed is married and has 2 daughters, and Dr. Reed's plaque will be presented to him at a later date. Let's give both of our dedication recipients a big round of applause.